Welcome to the Can Innovate podcast, the first ever podcast designed to showcase Canadian thought leadership. These innovators share industry insights, entrepreneurial best practices, lessons learned, and other tips that we can incorporate right into our lives, our careers, and our businesses. So let's get inspired. So this is going to be episode 53. I can't get over that we are in the 50s, which is really brilliant. In fact, today I get to chat with Ariel Garten again. She's one of the co-founders for Muse, and we've had her on the episode before, a couple of times actually. One where we talked about meditation and what Muse is really about and how the benefits of meditation can really help us, which is really important because honestly, there's just so much stuff that's happening in our lives every day that we don't understand what we need to do to kind of take a breath of fresh air or understand what's kind of going on or just purge some of the cache in our brain. And this is what Muse really does. So if you haven't got a chance, definitely take a listen to episode 41, where we actually talk to Ariel, where we're talking about how to optimize the crazy in all of our minds. And she really does give a lot of amazing tips and tactics. Now, today's episode, we actually talk a lot more about, what is the Muse 2? They've just literally launched a brand new product, and when I actually had to rush the recording, so thank you to Nathan and Claire for making that magic happen in the background. But it was really cool because we wanted to really hear and capture the essence of what it feels like when you actually have gone and launched a product, and now you're launching a second version of it, and what that real-time feeling is like, of that excitement, the tiredness, all of those. And we wanted to capture that moment. And that's exactly what we did in this episode. So you really get to hear about the Muse 2. We get to hear the benefits. You're getting to hear real user stories about how meditation really helps itself and what this really means and why this Muse 2 new, features that really go beyond. You get to hear your own drum beat, and it's from the thinking to breathing to your heartbeat. It's really your kind of your essence of yourself. And we talk a little bit about that. We also get down and we talk about how awareness and emotional intelligence really helps becoming a lot more mindful, helps you with clarity and helps you with different perspective. In fact, Ariel shares a story about a real-time fight that she had with her husband on the air, which is adorable. But also, we get a sneak peek glimpse of how Muse actually creates this culture of innovation that allows them to really tap into coming up with new ideas and features, and how they benefited from utilizing some research and how fostering a community, and one of the mistakes that they've made. So she really opens up with a lot of amazing things. But honestly, Muse is just, and Ariel, they are just really groundbreaking thinkers, and we can always learn a lot from them. And in fact, if you guys are, and I get quite a few different emails regarding that people are kind of really stuck in a rut and they don't know what to do next, or they're not happy in their job and they just don't know where to go because they want to go in a different area and they just don't know where to get moving to. Sometimes they feel like a walking zombie and so on. And so we talk a little bit about, how to kind of unleash some of that curiosity and what do you do when you feel like that itself. And honestly, if you get a chance and you're really kind of looking for a great episode to talk about mindset, you've got to listen to the earlier episode where we talk about how to get rid of the knots in your head, and she gives really tactical tips, and we talk about that. Anyways, this episode I think you're really going to enjoy, and I can't wait to hear your feedback on it. So let me know. So here it is, episode 53. Hey innovators, I've got a special treat for all y'all. We have Ariel from Muse with us again, and she is no stranger to the Can Innovate podcast. For those that are not aware of who Ariel is, you've been missing out. Not only is Ariel Garten a neuroscientist, an innovator, a mother, an entrepreneur, she's super passionate about helping other people become empowered to overcome mental obstacles in order to live a really healthy and happy life and reach their actual maximum potential. I mean, she is beyond fabulous. And hopefully you got a chance to check her out in episode 45. Honestly, we ended up talking about the tactical tips and tricks to overcome some of those obstacles. It was like one of those episodes where your mind is totally blown because it wasn't theoretical, it was so tactical. And Ariel, seriously, I have to tell you, I must have gotten so many emails about that episode, about how you really change the way they thought. That episode was crazy feedback. I couldn't get over it. One of the listeners actually shared that she actually shared it with her teenage daughter that was going through so many different issues, including low confidence, self-esteem, just uncertainty. She was worried about her daughter going into depression and so on. And she said after listening to your episode, which she was really hesitant to because she's like, I don't want to listen to this podcast about mindset. She said there was a dramatic shift immediately. Like, honestly, the girl can conquer nothing anymore. So that's the impact that you have with your words. It's unbelievable. So thank you for that.
Wow, I'm floored. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And thank you very much for creating and sharing it. It's, my words are just the tiniest piece. It's being able to actually get your head around something that could help you change, that could help you see yourself in a new way and recognize that you don't have to be locked in the box inside your head. You actually have the keys for it. You can just open the door and let all the crap fly out and change the way it, feels in there.
Well, you're definitely Wonder Woman because you definitely made a huge impact. It's unbelievable. And you know what, Ariel, what I love about you the most, not only are you a Canadian innovator that is really pushing the boundaries, I mean, you are definitely never boring. Like, you're always thinking about the next chapter, the next way to go. You're always thinking outside the box. Like, you are crazy inspirational and super innovative, and there's so much we can learn from you. So, but the bigger thing I'm dying to talk to you about is, as you are an innovator that is truly living the dream, you just launched something yesterday, and we are recording this now today on Wednesday, October 31st. So literally, her company Muse just launched something on October 30th. One, how does it feel to launch it? And two, what did you launch?
Thank you. So one, it feels amazing. We've been working in secret for the last year, creating a brand new product. We couldn't talk to anybody about it. And we were taking all of our ideas and innovations and just pouring it into this late nights, literally people sleeping at the office because we're so excited about doing it. And we're like, and we think again, this and this and this and this and this. And yesterday it was released to the world. So it was an overwhelmingly emotional day. And what we released was a new Muse 2.
Okay. Muse 2. Now, what is going on? What is new? You've got to give me all the details about this. Like, where did this new evolution of Muse come from? Because your Muse 1 was phenomenal, and literally, I've been using it now for the past few months, and I cannot believe the benefits, and not just the benefits, of just how happy I've become. Literally how happy I've become. So now I'm crazy curious. What is Muse 2?
Amazing. Wow. Amazing. Okay. So for anybody who doesn't know, Muse 1 gives you real-time feedback on your brain during meditations. You know when you're focused, you know when your mind has wandered. It essentially is a personal meditation assistant that sits inside your head and lets you know when your mind's focused on your breath and when you're wandered so that you can build a stronger meditation practice with data. With Muse 2, what we recognized was teaching people about the brain is amazing, but meditation has a much wider gateway than that. Meditation is both thinking, it's also breathing, sitting, how your heart is moving, how your body is moving. And so we recognized that we could build a sensor experience around each one of those facets of meditation, just like we did originally for the brain. So Muse 2 has a new sensor, a PPG sensor that tracks your heart rate. So you can get real-time feedback on your heart. It has sensors that are able to track your breathing, so we can see each breath, inhalation, and exhalation, and also sensors to track your movement. And so from there, we create these 3 new beautiful experiences around heart, breath, and body. So you can get real-time feedback on each one of those during your practice.
So how does that work? Like, it actually tracks your heart rate and your breath? Like, how does it do that? Like, do I put it on my heart? Like, or is this all coming from my brain?
No. Yeah, so it's all on the original headband. So the same form factor, it's just a slim little band that slips behind your ears like a pair of glasses. We actually made the form factor even slimmer. So we had, along the way, actually built a pair of smart glasses that read EEG. And through the process of building smart glasses that could read your brain, we made our EEG technology smaller and smaller and smaller. So we're able to take that and incorporate it into the new Muse. So Muse 2 is smaller and lighter than the original Muse, but it has more power and more sensors. So we have a PPG sensor next to the EEG sensors on your forehead. And it turns out that actually reading EEG from your forehead is even more reliable than doing it from your wrist. Sorry, reading your heart rate from your forehead is more reliable than your wrist. So there's a sensor that actually, just like the sensor on an Apple Watch, shoots a red light through your skin. And so it's able to see the change in blood flow at any moment. And so it syncs in real time to your heartbeat. So the experience that we build with that is really beautiful. We translate your heart's activity into the beating of a drum. So you can actually hear every single beat like the beating of a drum. And you're sort of sitting inside of the feeling of your heartbeat. And as you do that, you begin to become very aware of your heart, when it quickens, when it slows, and then what it means to you. And then we pair that with real-time feedback on your breath. So as you breathe, there's both an increase in your heart rate on your inhalation and a decrease in your heart rate on your exhalation. So using your heart rate, we can actually track each and every one of your breaths and correlate it also to your movement. As you breathe in, you move back slightly. As you breathe out, you move forward slightly. So using a fusion of sensors, we can actually track each and every one of your breaths in like crisp real time. And then from there, give you guided breathing exercises. So we teach you different forms of breathing: box breathing, in 4, hold 4, out 4, hold 4, relaxation breathing with longer exhalations, so that you take advantage of the time in which your heart rate is slowing to help slow all of your physiology. Pranayama, yoga breathing that energizes you. So you now have a suite of breathing exercises that you can use to start to impact your heart and your physiology. And then we show you your movement. So for a lot of people, the hardest part of meditation is just getting started and sitting down and sitting still. And for a lot of people, sitting is not the most comfortable thing during meditation. So we give you real-time feedback on the movement of your body. And the metaphor we use is you're essentially sitting inside of a set of chimes. And every time you shift or fidget, you knock into one of those virtual chimes. So you're actually hearing each time your body moves. And so we help you find a position of comfort where you're sitting, piece stacked on top of piece on your spine, so that your spine is nice and firm and pain-free. And we help you manage and adjust all of your little fidgets and movements so that you can just begin to find stillness in your body, which ultimately leads to stillness in the mind.
This is craziness. Like, this is so cool. I love the idea of the beating of a drum. So I started kind of tapping because I felt the vibrations, that's for sure. But that is like really interesting. Like, how did you guys get inspired for this new evolution of all these new ideas? Like, where did that come from?
So once we had the Muse, so Muse has been out in the market about 4 years. And we launched in Best Buy in about November 2014, Best Buy Canada. And once we started to do that, the first thing we noticed was you could actually see your heart rate in the EEG. So we started to have this contaminating factor in our signal and say, like, oh God, you can see the heart. Oh no, it's contaminating our EEG. So we had to build filters around it. And then we started to play with the ways that different forms of real-time feedback from different parts of your body could enhance the experience. And in some ways, we were limited by not having a new device, but we were playing with the old device with the accelerometers and the gyroscope and recognizing all of the additional forms of feedback that we could create. And it wasn't until about a year ago when we sort of stood back and said, hold on, we have enough here to really build something new and powerful. We have enough, of our futzing and experiments and investigations and hunches to really take this seriously and say we need to incorporate a whole new suite of feedback into Muse because we think we can do it. And so from there, it just became a sprint, an innovation sprint inside the company. We formed an innovation tiger team that was led by Chris, my co-founder and our CTO, diving deep into different forms of meditation and how different kinds of feedback could enhance those forms of meditation. And then along the way, we acquired another company, Meditation Studio, which has 500 meditations and a broad range of teachers who specialize in different forms and different approaches to meditation. So we started to engage deeply with those teachers and learn from their different ideas and how we could incorporate sensor feedback across their kinds of meditations. And we sort of looked, we sort of did a sense check 6 months ago. We're like, do we think we could actually build a whole new app experience? Do we think we can entirely like redo the architecture, redo the way we give feedback? Do we think we can do this and have it launch for October? And we stood back and said, that's absolutely crazy, which is why we think we can do it. And literally, it was like one of those moments where you all look at each other, you're like, this is crazy. We need to like, okay, like our dates for tooling mean that we probably need to launch sometimes in December, and that's too late. Like, how can we pull everything back, pull out all the stops, and like launch this in time for Christmas?
Oh my, this is seriously, I cannot believe that you were able to keep this so quiet as a best kept secret out there, because this is so really truly different. Like the doctors and physicians must be kind of going crazy because you're able to really deepen the experience.
Yeah. So for everybody who's had a meditation practice, it's always felt like, as a neuroscientist, you know, to me, the mind is the top of the pyramid, but that's just my neuroscience approach. And everybody gets into a practice from a different direction. And so to be able to have these different gateways makes it meaningful for a much wider audience.
Oh, this is so really cool. It's really interesting because I keep getting emails from a lot of different people from different backgrounds in terms of whether they are an entrepreneur themselves and whether they're trying to do a side hustle, or just the ones that are just stuck in a rut altogether. Like, people are really feeling really burnt out, like a walking zombie and all of those things. And this is something that they can really probably gravitate towards and try to understand a little bit more, because for people like me that don't understand meditation, like, it's really hard to learn this without the tool like this. But if there's some advice you can kind of give out to those, you know, other people that are struggling, and, you know, what would you tell them about why meditation is so beneficial to them?
I could probably use the example I had this morning. I had a fight with my husband.
Oh, no.
I did something stupid. He got really mad at me. And, you know, your first reaction in that situation is to defend yourself. Like, no, I was doing it the right way. And that was the first sensation that came up. And that sensation is never the right sensation. And I was able to kind of, you know, and it started to arise, and I started to open my mouth. And then I was like, this is just not going to work, because it never works when you do that. And so then I went upstairs and I sat with myself quietly, and I examined my behavior and how it must have, like, what the experience must have been from his perspective, and how he must have felt, you know, belittled in that scenario that I had unintentionally but definitely created. And I said, shit, okay, now I understand that I did this and this and this, and I need to do these other things and like play through my mind what it would feel like to do it differently. And I felt a lot of resistance in myself around that, but, you know, play through it again and then like write it down. And then I stood back and said, oh my God, like 2 years ago or 4 years ago, I would have never been able to do this, because the sensation in the past would have been like, there's an overwhelming feeling of emotion when you get in a fight with somebody. You have this feeling that you're right. And then this feeling of like intense emotion that sort of clouds all ability to think clearly about how you were wrong and what somebody else's experience was. And that to me was one of the most profound moments of the impact of meditation on my life, that I didn't have this emotional overwhelm. I felt bad about what I did, but the emotions around feeling bad about it weren't clouding me from seeing what I did wrong. I wasn't a, you know, crying ball of mess. I was just able to like really clearly see, okay, if I was him, I would have felt these ways based on Ariel's actions, and Ariel needs to change her actions. It was like shocking to me that I could have come to that point.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, that was really, really shocking.
But that's amazing. But it's so true, right? But that increased level of awareness, you know, and that whole thing about emotional intelligence. I mean, in the business world, they've been talking about, you know, you need to become more EI, and which means emotional intelligence out there for our listeners that are not aware of it. And so you could be a better leader. You could be a better, you know, mother. You could be a better whatever. You just need to tap into that. But no one ever, you know, shows you how to really do those things. You're just aware that you need to do it, but you just don't know how.
Yeah, and then as you practice meditation over time, the impact of your emotions is not as dramatic on your mind and on your body. So emotions still happen. You still feel them. They're still meaningful. They still have a lot of information for you that you have to listen to. But in the past, it would have just been this overwhelming sensation of, this feeling of I'm right, or this feeling of anger, or this feeling of I hate the fact that this whole thing happened, and how's it going to be tomorrow, or how's it going to be when I come back home, or how's Halloween going to be because this is ruined Halloween. And instead of having all of that emotional cloud, I could just see what I did wrong. Well, I think I see what I did wrong, and I'm sure there's a ton that I'll miss that I will be pointed out to me when we have the conversation about it. But I was not afraid to examine my own behavior. And I was not clouded by the sensations and overwhelm of the experience. It was really different.
Well, I guess it makes sense. It's a new tool in your toolkit, right? Like that you're able to tap into and pull it out when you need. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love this. So out of curiosity, you must get some crazy success stories too because you've got a really powerful Muse community out there. Like I was browsing the Facebook page when I was getting ready for the interview, and people are really open about their statistics and some of the struggles they face and the successes that they've had. Like, you've really built a really powerful community with your customers. It's amazing. I cannot believe. How did you guys do that?
It really did itself. And I think one of the places that we went wrong is that we haven't had a community for the first 3 or 4 years. We didn't have the resources to do it. And we really kind of accidentally built a Muse community on Facebook. We started by having a professionals community. So we started by opening with a challenge to Muse professionals. And that was so successful. We're like, okay, we need to build a community. And we simply opened a Facebook page and invited all of our users to it. And within the first month or two was at 3,000 users and growing quickly. And it's self-organized. We cannot take any credit, any knowledge, any insight from it from ourselves. It happened. And it's really, really beautiful. I was looking through the comments last night as well. And one person said, "Thank you for this really loving community." And I was just like, wow. He's like, I love my Muse, but I also love my loving Muse community. And it was just like, wow, there's a place online where strangers can talk to each other and say, thank you for being loving. That was so beautiful to me. And people are really open. They share their stats. They share their experiences. There's some people who post their Muse sessions each and every day. And that's part of what keeps them moving forward in their practice. And in meditation, there's, always often this concept of community. If you're Buddhist, you call it a sangha. You come together as a sangha, as a community, and you practice with one another. And it's that community that keeps you engaged and supported. And people really do. They answer one another's questions. They give each other insight on what works for them in meditation. If somebody's having a hard day, they'll come and support each other. And there are champions in the community that you always see posting who have strong real life communities. Some of them are, really powerful, like mind-body professionals in themselves who have their own real life communities, and they really have invested a lot into supporting each other online. It is so gorgeous, and it actually made me cry.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But, it's really crazy. I mean, honestly, it's Facebook groups have changed so much and dramatically that there's so many different support mechanisms. Whether you've got an autoimmune condition, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you name it, there's so many things that are much more specific, entertaining children on a dime. They've got a community. There's a community for everything. So it just goes back to people really are looking for that connection and support, and to deal with people that are like-minded. They're going through some of those struggles and the same types of changes, and they really just need that, that connection.
We are human, bottom line. And our goal with building Muse was to create a technology that helps you get in touch with and enhance your humanity, and to use technological tools to allow you to get in touch with, sit with, be with, connect with the act of being human. The act of having a heart that beats, lungs that breathe, a mind that wanders, a self that you can just sit with in stillness and not be afraid of. So it was, really beautiful that we've been able to add this next layer and texture to it, which is the connection with one another through community. And we certainly want to keep doing more and more and more of that.
Well, you're so inspirational. So tell me something. I actually had a couple of different other emails, and people are really struggling to kind of find new ways to be inspired or to unleash their curiosity. Now, you've got the curiosity gene beyond belief. I mean, you're always thinking ahead and stuff. Any advice you would give to those people out there that are looking for something like that to get out of that mindset or stuck in that, rut?
So I have a couple ideas on that. One is think about what inspired you as a child. So as a child, we have what seems like infinite time to do whatever we want. I remember rollerblading for hours on end, making clothes for my dolls, building things. There's always these things that you connect with as a kid because you have the time and space. And then as you grow up, that time and space erodes. And so the value you place on those things erodes too because you perceive them as frivolous. So part of the sensation, I think, is being bored or uninspired when you're an adult is this feeling like you're supposed to do your job. You're supposed to, keep your house clean. You're supposed to make money and pay your bills. You're supposed to whiten your teeth, whatever you think is on your list of priorities that you're supposed to do. And the other stuff, the sparkle of life, gets pushed to the background because you feel like you're not supposed to do that because it's no longer important because you as a responsible adult are supposed to do all these other responsible things. So you need to, tap into and identify some of those things that used to give you a sense of sparkle, and B, give yourself permission for them. Give yourself permission to be like, no, actually, the sense of sparkle time is also a really important time in my life and just as important as whatever else it is. And so give yourself the time. You can calendar it if you need to be that anal about it. Time where you are just free to do whatever it is that tickles your fancy or might tickle your fancy or potentially tickles your fancy. The other thing is turn off the inner critic. So I know sometimes I'll give myself, some calendared sparkle time and you kind of don't know where to start. And then you're like, I'll just take out some crayons and just start doing this thing. And then you're like, oh, this isn't good enough. And so then that thing that could have been inspiring becomes uninspired because your critic has come in. So give yourself permission to park your critic whenever you're engaging something that you might want to be inspired by, because that critic kills the party so fast. And when he's locked out the door, he or she, then you can just be free to engage in the delight of whatever it is you're doing. And it doesn't have to have an outcome. It doesn't have to be meaningful. It doesn't have to be for something. Just for the act of seeing how pretty a color looks on the page. Just feel that and then, sort of feel where that goes. It's just for the act of listening to some music and actually giving yourself the permission to feel how cool that sound, how it moves your body, how you really like how the music goes up and down. And maybe your body wants to shake a little along with it and just go with it and start to bring back that thing inside you to life that you give permission to live.
I love that. Bring back your inner child. Go for it. The sense of sparkle. I just loved your words that you use. It always makes me feel shiny and bright and that I can do anything. You really are. And I guess that's how you always tap into this innovation gene that you have of, and you probably have that created that culture inside of your organization for them to kind of be experimental and try new things and test new things. Is that what you guys have done inside the Muse organization, is create this culture of experimentation?
Yeah, and a lot of that really comes from Chris, from my co-founder. He's an extraordinary innovator. And so we have space where you go into Chris's lab office and you jam with him. When we moved into our office, he took one space to be his. He took off the door, put in a couch. He threw all of the equipment he could find in there, recording equipment, keyboards, computers, cool lighting. And he's like, this is the place where people come to jam. And he made it inviting, and he made a space of permission where you can go and play.
You're actually talking about music, music instruments and stuff like that?
Yeah.
That is so cool. That is so cool.
A place to play.
A place to play. That's amazing. All right. So Ariel, out of curiosity, so you've got Muse. Muse 2. Is there a secret Muse 3 that is going to come out?
Not that I know of, speaking honestly. The Muse 2, we spent the last year building it. I think it was the Mashable reporter that he got his Muse in 2014 and he loved it. It was such a sweet article. The title was something like "The World's Best Meditation Tech Just Got Better." But at the end of it, he said, Muse has been my favorite tool for the last 4 years. Muse 2 is going to be the next one for the next 4 years. And that was really relieving. It's okay. We don't need to build another piece of innovation immediately. It's going to have good longevity. There's lots that you're going to see coming from it, from the tool, things that we'll build on top of it. New experiences will allow us to enable. But for now, the hardware, it's going to be with us for a good while.
Oh, I love it. Well, you've definitely got, like I said, a really powerful Muse following and really hardcore ones, because I couldn't get over the community, the feedback and all those things. Like, they are so excited. They can't wait to try things out. Like, you know, I'm guessing this stuff is like flying off the shelves. Like, there's no tomorrow.
It was pretty crazy. Yesterday, our first launch day was extraordinary from the amount of response that we saw. It blew our expectation out of the water. It was amazing. Really, like, so amazing to see, so amazing to be a part of. I'm so grateful to my team who's, you know, pulled the long nights and the long hours putting it all together. And, you know, now they're looking forward to the next set of things that they want to build on it. So everyone's still like late night in the office from here forward, continuing to keep it growing.
Love it. Well, this is what happens, listeners, when passion hits innovation. It just collides into a different universe altogether. Like, that is so sensational. I'm so happy for you guys. Seriously, I can't wait to try out Muse 2. I was checking out the pictures. There's a sexier headband that is gold plated. Gold is my color. I so can't wait to try this new version out. I mean, I can only imagine the celebrations are going to be continuing for, you know, the rest of the weekend, and, you know, quite some time, because that's amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, it feels extraordinary. So thank you.
No worries. And so for our listeners out there, if they want to connect and learn more about you, any place we should send them?
Sure. Instagram's always great. My world in pictures. I reply to everybody through there. So I'm Ariel's Musings on Instagram. And then, of course, the Muse website is choosemuse.com. And my website is arielgarten.com.
Oh, brilliant. I'm going to make sure they're all in the show notes. And you know I'm always going to be following you. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in this week. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. And next week, I got another really fun episode. You'll be surprised at the topics we're going to cover. But anyways, in the meantime, you don't have to wait till next week to connect with us. You can connect with us always on all the different social media links. You can even send us a review. That's another great place to give feedback. And of course, our new newsletter that has tons of new golden nuggets and of course, discounts galore. Actually, our tool section of the website also have it. And please feel free to nominate another innovator out there. And I can't wait to talk to you next week.